Hey guys, Sam from the Timeline Podcast here, and welcome to our brand new YouTube channel. We'll be posting various video breakdowns regarding all things Suns, and today we're going to be starting with some free agency targets. Now, I'm fully aware that free agency is 6 months away, but I'm also aware that the Phoenix Suns have a massive hole at power forward, and honestly at this point it's as bad as their hole at point guard. TJ Warren has been starting at power forward for the vast majority of the season, as we know, and he gets a lot of credit from us for remaking his shot over the summer and for playing out of position. But since TJ Warren became the starting power forward, the Suns are the worst rebounding team in the NBA. In fact, they're the only team averaging less than 40 rebounds per game, and that's a huge reason why they continue to lose. I'm going to break down some free agent power forwards now, but first I'd say that the ideal power forward target for the Phoenix Suns has to be able to do a few things. First off, they need to be able to shoot at least a little bit, because DeAndre currently isn't taking threes, and you don't want to completely lose the spacing that TJ Warren gives you as he's become a 40% three-point shooter. Second, they need to rebound at a good rate, like at least 8 or 9 rebounds per 36 minutes. Because DeAndre Ayton or Richaun Holmes can either contest a shot or they can box out, but they can't do both. And when your center is contesting, you need someone else on the floor to step in and do the dirty work to prevent second chance points. Finally, some defense is always nice. Rim protection is a cherry on top, but don't think that a good rim protector is automatically a good defender. The most important thing for a power forward in the modern NBA to do on defense is to shuffle his feet well on the perimeter, defend the pick and roll either by hedging and then recovering, or, if he's athletic enough, by switching on screens entirely. So there you have it, shooting, rebounding, and defense. Now, let's look at some candidates. Let's start off with maybe my favorite candidate that you haven't been paying attention to, and that's Noah Vonleh of the New York Knicks. Vonleh is one of those rare cases of a 23-year-old who's going to be an unrestricted free agent this summer, making him way easier to sign than most young guys that would fit this team's timeline. The Knicks are Vonleh's 4th team in 5 seasons, but he's finally made some tremendous progress into being a versatile 3-and-D big. On the surface, his stats look pretty ordinary. He's putting up 8.7 points, 8.5 rebounds, and a block per game in 26 minutes. But if you delve a little bit deeper, you'll quickly find that this is the type of player that checks all the boxes we were just talking about. First, Vonleh is shooting a career-high 41% from deep on just over 2 attempts per game. He's transitioned seamlessly into the Knicks offense as a trailer, and that provides great gravity for that offense. Next, his rebounding is no joke. At 11.6 rebounds per 36 minutes, Vonleh ranks 17th in the NBA in rebounding among all players who have logged at least 1,000 minutes this season. That puts him just behind DeAndre Ayton. But overall, what makes Vonleh so exciting is definitely his defense, and especially his potential as a young player to become even better on that end. He has, and I say this unironically, been one of the better Greek freak stoppers in the NBA. The Knicks have already played the Bucks 4 times this season, and Vonleh has had the opportunity to guard Giannis for 180 possessions. He held Giannis to 52% shooting, way lower than the season mark of 58%, and picked up some absolutely disgusting highlight blocks. Along the way, I'll let you check those out real quick.
That was tight. That was blocked. Paul been going in his bag lately.
Vonleh waiting to his to deny
Vonleh is not a super flashy player, but he does all the little things, and for that reason the advanced stats love him. The Knicks still have just a minus 5.5 net rating with Vonleh on the court, but when he's off the court, that net rating plummets even further to minus 10.4. That's a differential of just under 5 points per 100 possessions and is the best on the Knicks roster, which makes a strong case for him being the Knicks' most impactful player, even if he's not their top scoring option. Being from New York myself, I have the pleasure of being around a lot of Knicks fans, and trust me when I say they do not want to let this guy go. Some Knicks fans have even gone as far as comparing Vonleh to Draymond Green, and Vonleh's court vision and passing is nowhere near that level, but honestly, based on the rest of their skill sets, it's not the worst comparison. He might cost a pretty penny to lure away from the Garden, and we're dealing with a small sample size here because so far this is Vonleh's only good season. But on the other hand, here we have a 23-year-old unrestricted free agent with untapped potential. Those do not grow on trees. Let's move on to the next candidate, the Chief, Al-Farouq Aminu. Over the past 4 years, the Blazers have relied on Aminu to provide hard-nosed defense, spot-up shooting, and just about nothing else. As of now, Aminu has started all 45 of Portland's games, posting a solid 9.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 1 steal per game on 57% true shooting. A 3-and-D veteran sounds awfully similar to Trevor Ariza, so I don't blame you if your bullshit meter is going off right now. But I think there are a couple of factors that might make this signing different. For one, Aminu has considerably less mileage on his body than Ariza did. We're talking about the difference between a 28-year-old and a 33-year-old. The drop-off might still be coming for Aminu sometime on the horizon, but he should retain the athleticism to be consistent for another 2 or 3 years in a way that Tyson Chandler or Trevor Ariza just couldn't be. Critically, he's also another guy who rebounds like a motherfucker. Aminu's averaging 9.8 rebounds per 36 this year, and that's his highest rate since 2012 with New Orleans. His offensive rebound percentage of just under 6% is as high as Josh Jackson and TJ Warren's percentages combined. Now, frankly, there's not much to his offensive game. It took a lot of work for him to become even a respectable three-point shooter, but he is finally there, knocking down 35% of his threes throughout 4 seasons with Portland. That doesn't mean he can get fancy with it and shoot off the dribble or in motion or anything like that. You basically have to stick Aminu in a corner and let him catch and shoot. But the good news is he's shooting 43% on corner threes this year, which is definitely elite. Defensively, Aminu fits perfectly into the Suns' scheme. With a massive 7'2" wingspan and nimble feet, he's a guy who can be trusted to switch onto smaller players and guard positions 2 through 4. For those of you out there who miss PJ Tucker, this feels like a real PJ Tucker kind of signing to me. Aminu is no bells or whistles, he's not really going to create on offense for himself or for anybody else, but he fits the defensive scheme and could be a nice complementary piece around Booker and Ayton. You just know what you're going to get out of a guy like this. Next, let's introduce our first truly talented scorer in Nikola Mirotic. Mirotic is averaging just a tad under 17 and 8 for the Pelicans, which converts to about 20 points and 10 rebounds per 36. He's also looking at a 59% true shooting clip and 36% on his threes. Since I already had to convince you that Aminu isn't another Ariza, let me make it clear right now that Mirotic is not another Ryan Anderson, because contrary to popular belief, not all white big men play exactly the same. For one, Ryan Anderson is slow. Niko Mirotic is not. In fact, Niko is one of the driving forces behind Alvin Gentry's offense, which ranked first in the NBA in pace last season. 52% of Niko's shot attempts come with at least 15 seconds left on the shot clock. When Ryan Anderson was coached by Gentry in New Orleans, a mere 32% of his attempts came that early. Bottom line, Mirotic loves to get out on the open floor and has the ability to run with the Suns' young players. When it comes to shooting, Mirotic is very clearly the best of the bunch so far. Vonleh might be hitting 40% of his threes, but he only dares to take a couple attempts per game when he's wide open. Niko, on the other hand, has the greenest of lights, and he's taking 7 3-point attempts per game, which is more than anyone on the Suns roster, including Devin Booker. But what makes Mirotic especially dangerous on offense is his soft touch from anywhere on the floor. He's shooting a solid 42% on mid-range jumpers that are at least 16 feet out, and he's even got a couple of tricks up his sleeve when working in the paint in the form of turnaround jumpers and hook shots. Now, defensively, I can't lie, Mirotic is not on the same level as Vonleh or Aminu. But despite not posting impressive steals or blocks numbers, or having a freakish wingspan, Mirotic is pretty much the definition of solid thanks to his hustle. Just sit back and watch some clips of Mirotic contesting Kevin Durant's shot in last year's playoffs. The Warriors knew they wanted to exploit this matchup, but on the biggest stage, Mirotic was able to mostly stay with one of the greatest scorers of all time and make his life difficult. He's no lockdown defender, but that consistent effort is really all you can ask for. Of course, Mirotic comes with his faults too. He averages 1.1 assists per 36 minutes, and honestly that just seems criminal if you play next to Anthony Davis. But a 27-year-old without a ton of wear and tear on his legs, who has come through in the playoffs before, is definitely going to be an attractive asset on the free agent market. If the Suns do show significant interest in Niko, they won't be the only ones. Finally, let's focus on Tobias Harris, the one man in this group playing at a borderline all-star level. Harris is averaging 21 points and 8 rebounds per game for a borderline playoff team, and he's doing it on a superb 61% true shooting. His 44% three-point shooting is obviously awesome, but beyond that, he is also one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. Really, I don't even know where to start in terms of breaking down his offensive game. He's a lot like Monte Ellis was back in the day in that Well, I'll let Monte explain.
As far as playing on the same level, competing every night, both ends, shoot inside, outside, fast break, transition, Monte have it all.
So yeah, Tobias Harris has it all, on offense at least. But to continue with the unnecessary Monte Ellis comparisons, Harris's defense entirely depends on how engaged he is on that particular night. Some nights, guards will be content to force the switch on Harris, expecting him to lag behind a step, as is the case in these clips of him guarding Kemba Walker, DeMar DeRozan, and our very own TJ Warren. But then you also have performances like his one against Ben Simmons, as Harris held Simmons to 4 of 15 shooting on possessions where he guarded him. One important thing to note here is that Harris probably helps the rebounding problem the least of these 4 players. While his 8.5 rebounds per 36 is definitely solid, almost all of those are coming on the defensive end. He's averaging a career-low 0.7 offensive rebounds per game, which is just as bad as TJ Warren. When you talk to Clippers fans, one of the main critiques of Harris right now is that for a so-called star, he has an odd habit of totally disappearing in the clutch. That's not even to say that he's shooting the Clippers out of games in the fourth quarter, but actually the opposite. He becomes passive and doesn't demand the ball. Harris is the Clippers' leading scorer, and yet Lou Williams has attempted twice as many field goals in clutch situations, as defined by NBA.com. Danilo Gallinari has taken more clutch shots than Harris as well. This might not be a problem in Phoenix because, as we know, Harris won't be asked to be the first option when that's clearly going to be Devin Booker. But then the question becomes, how does a guy with a career average of less than 2 assists per game and average defense contribute when the ball isn't in his hands? That, my friends, is the TJ Warren conundrum all over again. I'll be honest, this is definitely my personal least favorite option of the 4. If Tobias Harris is going to cost you upwards of $25 million, we can all agree that TJ Warren gives you 90% of what Harris does, and why not just keep Warren for literally half the price? Oh, and before I forget, I feel compelled to say that Tobias Harris is actually the cousin of Channing Frye. I don't know if that makes you nostalgic for Steve Nash, Channing Frye pick and pops, but maybe that adds a bonus point or two to the Tobias bandwagon. So those are my favorite starting caliber options to this point, but keep in mind we're really only scratching the surface here. The Suns could easily opt to spend a little less money on a power forward and a little more money on their point guard, and then go with a cheaper bench big instead of a starter. Some really appealing options there include Jermichael Green, Taj Gibson, or Dante Cunningham. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this first free agent breakdown from the Timeline Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us or follow us on Twitter, where we're at the Timeline Pod, or obviously check out our actual podcast as well at thetimelinepodcast.com or on your favorite podcast streaming app. And don't worry, there will be a similar video coming for Point Guards.